Welcome to the Write Good Books podcast, the audio companion to WriteGoodBooks.com, with your host Jason Boga.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jason. I'm here with our co-host Scott Michael Childers. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing fine. Hope you're the same.
Oh yeah, everything's great over here. Today we'll talk about what to do when you get discouraged as a writer.
Well, of course, you listen to us.
You listen to us so that you learn.
Every well-enunciated syllable.
Okay.
That one's going on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, for sure. I'll talk about me a little bit. I've been writing for 6 years. I've had, in some ways, more accomplishments than I ever thought I'd have, but then I also feel like I'm not as far along as I would like to be after 6 years. So I do get discouraged quite a bit. I think I really get discouraged when real life gets in the way, and I just feel like I didn't get anything done this week, or didn't get anything done today, or this month, or whatever. In our first podcast, we talked about how to make time to write, and this is kind of a supplement to that, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I suppose we should look at when we get discouraged, mostly. Yeah. And like I said before, it's really when I go to bed and I look at, what did I get done today? It's like, I didn't get as much done as I would have liked to, so I'll feel discouraged. Or a big one is you plan to work on some stuff, and then real life gets in your way, and then you don't get anything done, and then it's like, what now? Should I just give up and quit? Say I wasted the last 6 years and go back to playing video games full time?
I would say no.
Probably
Is that
not.
the correct answer? No?
I think so.
Okay.
Keep trying. Don't get discouraged. When do you feel discouraged?
I feel discouraged, not with the writing, but the time. It's hard to put into words. It's a feeling that I get once in a while. One of the things that works for me is I view my writing as part of my life, not the whole life. And so I try to keep a holistic view. And I don't mean that in the new agey way, just like I did something today. It may not have been writing, but I did something today. I helped the library with something else. I saved a kitten from a tree. I put out a forest fire. Those last few ones are not quite right. But anyway, that's part of it. It's like, my writing didn't do well. Or, the amount of writing I wanted to do didn't happen today. However, I'm still feeling good about my life. And that's, top importance.
That's actually great advice, because if you write too much and you let other parts of your personal life go down the drain, you might feel just as bad.
Yeah. Now, there is also a different type of discouragement. It's in the quality of when I do have time to write, and I'm writing, and then at the end of the day, it feels like I wrote absolute drivel.
Yes.
That's a different type of discontent. And at those points, I remind myself, that's okay. That's why we have revisions. That's why we don't let stuff out before it's ready.
That's a draft, yeah. I'll feel discouraged if I feel overwhelmed also. I'm working on cleaning up my second book for a conference, and I look at that and think, oh my God, this is a terrible mess. What am I going to do? How am I going to get this? I only have a month and a half left. What do I do? So I feel discouraged when that happens too.
Well, and I'm going to sound like a real new age philosopher today, apparently, but there is something healing about a good night's rest and writing the previous day off.
That's
As
true.
in, like, okay, today wasn't the greatest, either quality or quantity, whatever have you. Rest yourself. That might be a sign, especially if it's this constant discontent and discouragement, it may be a sign that you are pushing too hard at that moment, and you need to let yourself take a breath. You need to let your mind kind of settle some things. So get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And come back to it the next day.
Yeah, take a fresh look, maybe set some goals that are a little more achievable.
Yeah.
And really reevaluate if you are setting your sights too high. If you start writing and say, I'm going to get a book done every year, or I'm going to get a short story written every month, that might be too much for your current lifestyle. That was my goal at one point, and 3 kids later, I realized that's unachievable. And when I changed the way I look at my long-term writing goals, I felt a lot better when I put in better perspective.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the same boat, because I was expecting that I would have a first draft done of a book every year, and then revise. I'd constantly be doing this book a year type of at least first draft. Mm-hmm. No, I'm still working on the first draft that I started a while ago, because of life and stuff like that. But I'm still working. I'm still going forward with it. And I think that's the main thing. It's the long view, right? One day, 1 week, yeah, you're going to go through tough times, but long view, you're still at it, you're still making progress. A collection of steps equals a long distance, but you don't see those steps when you're just looking down at your feet, each step, one at a time.
Right. And look at your long-term goals, and I guess every day, if you make just a tiny bit of progress, small accomplishments every day that help get you closer to that goal.
Yeah. Another thing that I've heard some writers do is they set milestones and they make sure they celebrate those milestones. Whether it's word count, whether it's days in a row writing, whatever it is that's working with your goals and the way that you're setting yourself up to write, whether it's scheduling a priority list or however, is having those milestones and kind of recognizing when you hit those. Maybe it's number of stories submitted. Maybe it's number of rejection letters received. What are your milestones? And make sure you take a little bit of time to celebrate those, because that helps remind you this is a long haul. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I'm working forward. Because if you don't celebrate those, then it's just this big thing that's happened, and you don't look back and see pleasant things sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. You only see the work you have ahead, and you don't see any of the accomplishments you have behind you.
Right. And those can help bolster you through. Here's one thing. In my profession, librarianship, we're not known to toot our own horns. I have a wall in my office that held my degrees, the awards I've won, which is kind of rare. But I do that so that way when I'm having a really bad day, I can look at that wall and I can see, hey, at one point I was doing pretty good. I can do that again. That's my psychological trick to keep me going through those really tough times. In writing, I look back at those milestones. I look at this collaboration that you're listening to right now, the good times I've had in writing, those days where it's like, this was a great day. And use those to bolster, it's like, I've gotten through a bad streak, but I've had those good times, I can have them again. I've done well, I can do well again. Now that doesn't help those just starting out, but if you take those and you build that collection of things, you may find that those first few milestones you don't need to rely on anymore, but you'll have new and better milestones.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Jason?
I think that's great. I know sometimes when I feel like, I haven't gotten enough short stories written this year, I'll feel a little down about it. I'll log into duotrope.com and look at my pending stories and say, you know what? I do have 5 short stories under review right now, so I have written 5 short stories that I'm hoping to get published. I might be struggling with the revisions on my next novel, but I've got a novel to be revising. How many people might be discouraged if they don't have a novel done? So it is really good to remind yourself of your accomplishments. And when you miss one of your daily goals, I feel like I used to really beat myself up about it. I wouldn't really blame people, but I'd blame circumstances. I'd be like, if I had to stay late at work, I would have got a little more done. If the kids would have went to bed earlier, I would have got more done. You really got to let that go. I'm not sure how alcohol, I don't know, caffeine, good music, that's the one, good music. But yeah, you got to let stuff go and don't get angry if you don't reach your daily goals. Another thing I used to get, maybe not jealous, but I'd feel a little discouraged if I knew other writers who weren't at the same point in their life as I am. I'd say, God, they don't have kids. They can just get home and write nonstop, and look where they're going to get. I'd get a little jealous of that. And you can't compare yourself to other writers. Everybody's in a different situation.
Yeah, and everyone's going to have a different audience. Everyone's going to have a different career.
Right, and you may think the grass is greener. I might have said, if such and such don't have kids, they can go home and write. Well, I don't know what their life is really like. I don't know what they're going through. They're not going home and writing. I have no right to be jealous of anybody.
Yeah, and I think that I think we're kind of veering off on jealousy, but sometimes jealousy
can lead to discouragement,
right?
Or be the result of it.
Yeah.
To kind of go off in a little separate direction, rejections can be really discouraging to some people.
Yes, they can.
I've met plenty of writers who just outright will not submit short stories or query agents because they're so terrified of that rejection letter.
And in those cases, they can still be writers, just
Yeah.
not going to publish in many places.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, they're still writing, they're still expressing themselves in those cases. So I don't want to just say you have to do this to be
Right.
a writer. If you're looking to make it a living, of course you're going to have to submit either that, or you're going to have to create your own press and print your own stuff and then do your own marketing. And I think we've covered those things in previous podcasts.
And it's true. Not everybody writes to be a professional writer.
Correct. Yeah.
As far as people who are submitting and feeling discouraged about their rejections, you just have to look at it objectively. Most publications accept less than 1% of the submissions, of the unsolicited submissions.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is take whatever feedback you get in the rejection letter and hope it helps and just keep trying and trying. And Stephen King said in his book he would take each rejection letter and pin them to the wall, and when that pile of rejection got too big for a pin, he traded it in for a nail and just kept posting them until he got his first acceptance. And that's all you can do. That's what I did. That's what everybody does.
Yeah. Well, and how many best-selling novels and great writers will tell you stories about their first novel, how often they got rejection letters and how they kept trying and kept pushing through rewriting or submitting a different novel or something else. Those stories are out there, but sometimes people don't hear them. I don't know too many that made one submission ever and got one deal, and their first book was out of this. There are a couple out there, of course, but the majority of them, the rejection letters happen to 99%.
Right. We could probably do a whole podcast on rejections, I suppose.
I reject that idea.
reject
No,
that idea.
we might. I
Yeah, we
think
might.
there might be. And while we're looking at that, we've kind of skirted around this, but there are many different areas where people feeling discouraged about their writing could happen. Maybe it's life experiences going on right now. Maybe it is those rejection letters. Maybe it's the quality of the work. I think one of the things, we should have started with this first actually, one of the things that you may want to do is sit down and diagnose, why are you discouraged? What is it that's causing this feeling of discouragement? Is it the rejection letters? Is it the lack of support from a certain group of people? There are some people, it's like, if only my family understood how important this was to me.
Right.
And maybe it is the timing. And so you diagnose that, and that might take a while. It's a feeling, it's an emotion. Some people are able to spot that right away. Other people, it takes a little bit of, thought and soul searching. But then you have something that you can work against. You can say, okay, this is the cause, as opposed to constantly trying to fix the symptom.
Right, that's good advice. Another cause of discouragement I've seen a lot on Twitter with other writers I've interacted with is I've seen plenty of people say, I just feel like my writing isn't good enough to get where it needs to get. And the only advice I have for that is just keep trying and keep learning and keep practicing.
Yeah. Writing is one of those skills. You have to keep writing to get better. It's not just going to be, hey, I'm a writer because I'm a really good writer because I drank a special potion. There is no secret formula. It's write to do better.
Practice, read a lot, learn from others.
And write. Even those, in those days that you're discouraged before your writing session, write about how discouraged you are.
Oh, that's good advice. Do a little journal entry.
And really focus on that emotional part. And then take a look at later on when you're not so discouraged. Heck, you might have a character piece in there too. But yeah, just if it's your quality, there's no cure except to write. You can listen to us, you can listen to others, you can read about it. You have to write to get better.
You have to. And I think we're just about out of time this week. You have any closing thoughts on the topic?
Yeah. Discouragement happens. Everybody at some point gets discouraged with something and it affects their writing. It's normal. You're okay. You'll get through it. Look in the mirror, tell yourself that you're fabulous, whatever you need to do. But yeah, it happens. It happens to all of us. I know both Jason and I, we've been dealing with discouragement issues back and forth and are already young and not so distinguished careers.
For sure.
So that's my final thought, is just, it happens, keep working, keep going through.
Every day is a new day. I'll end with a Ric Flair quote. He said, I get to get up every day and look in the mirror and say, I get to be Ric Flair today. Do the same, except use yourself instead of Ric Flair.
I'm going to use I am Ric Flair today.
There you go, woo. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, check us out on the web at www.writegoodbooks.com/podcast. See ya.
See ya.